Hello and welcome to the monthly Q&A. If you'd like to get your question answered in a Q&A like this fun, then head on over to us.fm/Sharmalade and I will do my best to answer your question as long as it's not too rude. Question number 1. I've got some weird ones to start off with, so I'm just going to ignore them because they don't make any sense. Someone's asked if they should get their nails done today. This was a year ago. Someone's asked, is it sunny? And they've not even put a question mark at the end of it. Right, post a YouTube link to a song that means a lot to you. And this is from Nels. Their name has been corrupted by Nazoth. Okay, so a song that means a lot to me, there's a story behind it. It's a bit weird, but I'll just tell you anyway. So the song is called The Princess and the Pearl, Billows. So I think the band's called The Princess and the Pearl, but I'm not sure. So anyway, I don't know if you know this, but quarantine, mushed brain. It's my bucket list thing to write a book. I've always wanted to. When I was a kid growing up, I used to love writing short stories. I think I've said this a few times. I did a load of unicorn poems and stuff like that, and I've got a binder that's just full of stories that I wrote and poems and just crazy stuff that I wrote as a kid, really angsty. And I just loved it. And one of the things that I really wanted growing up that my dad got for me was an electronic typewriter. Now, I mean, this was, I think I was about 13 at the time, so this was before the internet for me. I'm so old. And it was this, like, it looked like this, right? You can see that, but in white and about 20 times the thickness, and you'd put paper in, obviously, and you'd type and it would sound like a normal typewriter. So if you don't know what a normal typewriter sounds like, it's a really clanky keys, but this was electronic, so it was an actual keyboard like this. And if you made a mistake, you had this white tape in it that you could press backspace and it would go and it would just put this white tape over the character that you got wrong. But this white tape was really expensive, and so it was like whenever you made an error, it was like, oh god, how much is that going to cost? It's costed too much, because as I say, the white tape replacement was so expensive, so there was so much pressure on not making errors. That's what it was like using typewriters and stuff before we could just, like, you know, I take pressing backspace for granted a lot now. But back in the day, pressing backspace was a costly error. Anyway, totally digressing. So as I was saying, I've always wanted to write a story, and I've had countless ideas. I've always known that I want it to be paranormal romance. That's something I've always been set on. I love romance. I love love triangles and things like that. So I can never stick to an idea. I come up with so many. And I feel like there was one point where I came up with a plot that I was like, yeah, this is good, this is going to work, and then it just completely changed and didn't happen the way I wanted it to. And it was ever since I had this dream years ago now, and it was the basis for the idea for my story that I want to write. And in my dream there was a scene where these two women walk into kind of like, I don't even know, it was like an investigation bureau or something, and there was this really gorgeous guy sat there, and he fell in love with one of the women straight away, but she couldn't reciprocate his emotions for whatever reason. I don't want to go into it too much because I do want to write this story. I don't want you to nick my idea. And in my dream, this song played as I walked in. It wasn't me walking, I was like bird's eye viewing. I was just floating into the room and looking at these two women and the guy over there. And this song started playing and it was absolutely beautiful. And I don't know how, but I remember thinking to myself, I need to find a song that sounds similar to what I heard in my dream so that I can listen to it and try and use it as inspiration for my book that I haven't written yet. And so I went on to YouTube and I found a song that was like, so I couldn't believe it when I heard the first part of it and then the singers came in. I was literally just like, this is weird. This is like the song that I heard in my dream, and it's a really obscure song. It's from 6 years ago. I've since recently found some new songs of theirs that they've done which are just as beautiful. But this one's called Billows. I'll play you a little bit. It's absolutely gorgeous. Don't know if you're going to hear it. Oh, hang on, I've got my headphones in. It's really beautiful. And this is what I heard when I went into that room in my dream. It's so weird. It's like uncanny how similar it is. Wait, it's got the lyrics here. I'll sing it before they come in. They might come in now, I can't remember. Numerous bubbles that an undertow, completely immersed in a stream of warmth and grace. Numerous bubbles waltz in slow motion. No need to hide away from the undertow, completely immersed in a stream of warmth and grace. So nice. Anyway, totally getting carried away, but that is the song that I heard in my dream, and therefore it's got such like a pull in my soul, in my mind, because I feel like it's something I heard before I heard it, if that makes sense. So that would be, to answer your question, what's your name? Neurals. That would be a song that means a lot to me. Are hamsters pointless pets? Honestly, please. I'm not going to be dishonest with you. They're not pointless. My experience of hamsters is they've always been so vicious. It's like my experience with cats. I've only had one cat, but she lived until she was 19, so she had a really long life. But she was like such a bitch. She wasn't affectionate. She was a rescue though, so I understand her independence. But every other cat that I've ever met in my life has been well nice, and like they want to be stroked and they do the head bumps and everything, but Tinky just weren't interested. She was like, feed me, let me out, see you in like 3 days, I'll come back, feed me. She'd bring us a mouse every now and then, but even that was a bit like, oh, Tinks, well, don't want a mouse, mate. But yeah, so hamsters, I've had a lot of hamsters as well. I'm totally an animal person. I would just want so many animals, and we have had a lot of hamsters, but I remember these 2 that we had. I think Brinny was like my favourite hamster. My very first hamster was called Whammy, and it was I can't remember what breed it was, but it was white and grey, but like really long haired, and on its like bum, on its flanks, it had 2 really long white bits of fur, and when it walked they used to do that. But Brinny was a lovely hamster, but he got a massive tumour, and it was awful, and he's one of those sort of situations where, you know, every time he'd come out of his little igloo home, you'd sort of look and be like, mate. But he lived for a really long time. He was a fantastic hamster, had a lovely personality, but there was this time when we got 2, I want to say they were Russian dwarf hamsters, and we called them Letters and Dice after our World of Warcraft characters, obviously. And they were nuts, and they literally gave me so much anxiety, because I remember having to call Ian up when he was at work and just saying, these hamsters are going to kill each other. They one minute they'd be absolutely fine, and then the next minute they just fight for like an hour, and I didn't know what to do, and they were so fast. If you tried to catch them, they were tiny little things, and they were just so quick, and trying to separate them up was just an absolute chore. But I mean, I wouldn't say they're no pet is pointless. It becomes part of the family. But I'd say for me, I don't think I'd ever, every now and then I think I'd love to get another hamster, and then I just remember that, I mean, as cruel as it sounds, they don't live for a very long time, so it's difficult when you get attached, which I do very quickly, to even plants. Like, I get very attached to my plants, just a bit weird. But they don't live for very long, the hamsters, not the plants. And so, you know, it's a bit difficult when you get attached to something and it kind of doesn't last very long. What is your natural eye colour is? Blue, but I have in the past picked up some coloured contact lenses which are so fun to wear, but I can never find natural ones. I usually go to Pinky Paradise and I can never find ones that are just a small diameter. They're always a little bit too big and they make me look like I'm on heroin or something because they're too big for my eye. What's your opinion on Call of Duty World at War? Do you class it as one of the good old Call of Duty games? I can't really answer this question because I've never played Call of Duty. It's never been something that I've sort of looked at and thought, oh, really want to play that. I'm just not good at FPS games at all. I really love Overwatch, but I can't play it because I'm just so bad. Like, I'm super bad at it. I kind of can get by on Tracer, but trying to place her sticky bomb, it's ridiculous. I just kill myself even when I'm like, well, I definitely put the sticky bomb on the other player, and then I just like suddenly I'm like on the floor bent over because I killed myself. I blew myself up. So you know, I'm not good at FPS, and Call of Duty is an FPS, right? Because if it's not, then I've just completely got that wrong. What is your blood group? Oh, do you know what? I used to know. I think it's O negative, but I mean, that's a guess. And I'm literally just in my mind's eye trying to see what it said when I looked at it on paper maybe 15 years ago, because I used to give blood. But I had to stop giving blood. As much as I wanted to keep going with it, there wasn't necessarily any medical reason why I had to stop giving blood, but it was so utterly painful and it took a really long time. So I remember I'd go in to the church or wherever they were doing it, and I remember one time they prick your finger and they check your blood to see if it drops or floats or whatever, and I remember one time mine did the thing that it wasn't supposed to. I can't remember if it was floating or dropping or whatever, and one of these really stern, like, headmistress nun type women came over and she sort of went, no, hang on a minute, and she squeezed my finger so hard and all this blood came out and she put it into the water. She went, oh, that's absolutely fine, she can give blood. So I remember lying on the bed and I gave blood probably 3 or 4 times, and the last time that I gave blood, I remember lying on the bed. It was just in like the church hall and there was all these other little beds, and I think I laid there for, I mean, it felt like 15 minutes and it was so painful, and patients were coming and going and I was still lying there for the longest time, and I don't know why it hurt so much. Every time it hurt so bad, it just felt like the sharpest pain just continually for the whole time that I was giving blood, and it just felt like forever. So I ended up stopping doing that. But you know, I haven't done it for many years, so it's definitely something that I think I should try again and see if it's if that's changed now. Who is excited for Endgame? From Ray. What is Endgame? Oh, Avengers? Oh, is it a film? Is it some kind of Marvel-y thing? Because it is. Yeah, I'm not really into Marvel or DC or anything, so I just assumed that was an actual game, but it's not, it's a film. Right, someone's written something here in, Spanish? Translate. It was Romanian. I want the note, I don't mind. Doesn't make any sense. Can't answer it. Ever been locked out of your house and been really bursting for the toilet? I did get locked out of my house once. Oh, it was horrific as well. So basically I was about 18 and I got up, I put the oven on, as you do, to make some food, and I went out into the garden at the front, and the front door shut and I didn't have my keys, and the only window that was open was the bathroom window upstairs, which was really high up, and I was wearing the tiniest pair of shorts and top, like the tiniest top, and it was a hot summer's day. I had nothing on my feet, like literally just the shorts and a top, and I remember thinking, oh, because it was the morning, my dad had gone to work, I didn't work until the evening, I was doing night shifts, and I was like, no one else has got a key apart from my dad who's at work, I haven't got a phone, I can't call him, I don't know how to get in contact with him, So then, my dad's a painter and decorator, so he always had ladders and stuff like that, and I found a ladder up the side of the house, but it's one of those ladders that's got the round rungs with lines going through them, grooves all the way along. It's not the flat sort of metal ones, it was a wooden rung. Is that the right word? Rung, step. And so it was a push-up one as well, but it was proper like heavy, like a proper wooden thick ladder that probably went up about, I mean, how high was the second window? It was about 15 feet, I feel like, about 15 feet. So I managed to get this ladder up against the wall and like was trying to like push it up to like extend it. And then I managed to do that and lock it in, really heavy. And then I had the feat of climbing it. And if you've ever climbed a ladder without any shoes on, it's so awful. Your feet just want to cramp up on it, and especially on this round one with the grooves. There was no flat surface to put it on, and I think I made it halfway up the ladder before I was just like, this is stupid. The bathroom window itself also was incredibly small, and it opened outwards, and I just remembered thinking, even if I get to this window, I don't think I'm going to be able to get in safely. If I fall, I'm done for. And the whole time I was thinking to myself, the oven's on. And do you know what? I actually can't remember how I got into the house. I actually can't remember. I think I went into the shop where I worked and was like, I need to use your phone. I think I rang my dad, or I don't even know how I got in. Did that even happen? Do you have a tattoo? If yes, on which part of your anatomy? From Lana. Don't have any tattoos, always wanted one. I've been quite partial to hand tattoos. I think if I ever got tattoos, which I've been so close to getting, I'd love to get tattoos up my fingers and like along my wrist, like kind of just winding around. Maybe something, what's the word, like Viking-y. But I think that's the only place I'd want to get it, but then they're so visible, and then I'm going to have them like until I'm old, and I might be thinking, but if they're beautiful, then I'm going to enjoy looking at them. I don't think I'd ever get anything done that wouldn't allow me to sort of age gracefully, as it were. But the initial tattoo design that I wanted to get was mega. Like, I wanted to get something that represented earth, air, fire and water on my back and a phoenix, but I would never get that done. It was just a great idea, it was a great concept, but I would never get it done. I don't think I'd ever get anything of like my pets on my arm or anything like that. But that would have, you know, sentimental value. But I think for like aesthetic reasons, I'd want to get the ones on my hands, like, you know, like henna. I think they look absolutely stunning. But apparently it hurts a lot on bone, so, and your fingers are like super bony, so I guess that would be quite painful. Anyway, that is it for this month's Q&A. If you'd like to get your question answered in a Q&A like this one, then head on over to ask.fm/Sharmmonthly, and I will do my best to answer your question as long as it's not too rude.